The 2010s was an odd time for horror films. Obviously, this is after the big outbreak of the 80s slashers and the upbringing of the new gen horror films like Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, Conjuring, and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. At around this time, there was a lot of people inspired by the horror genre, and they wanted to stand out, but how? How do you stand out when it feels like everything has already been done? Well, Josh Trank and Max Landis figured out a cool way to interpret two different genres and successfully combine them into a movie that is completely slept on. And then Josh made Fan 4 Stick, but let's not focus on that again. I have decided to sit down. The plot of the movie is very simple to grasp, and it's something that at least everybody has thought about once in their high school past. Will I get laid? What if I had superpowers? I still ask myself that question, and I am probably way too old to be doing so. But the thing is that people have made superhero type movies without it being a superhero movie before. I mean, there's many of them. Kick-Ass, Carrie, Hancock, which is a crazy movie. Might have to make a video on Hancock in the future. So what gives? Why is this so different? Well, that is because it is a narrative told through the beautiful subgenre of found footage. How did no one do this before? Why hasn't anyone done it since? Also, not to mention, this isn't the perfect superhero story. It gets dark, and that's what makes it stick out. One of the best parts about this movie is that it shows the plus sides of being young with insane powers, but it also shows the corruption that it can cause on someone's young, developing mind. The movie starts off with introducing us our three main characters: Andrew, Steve, and Matt. Steve is kind of the preppy, outgoing character. Also, he's Michael B. Jordan, so
Auga.
Steve is friends with the cousin Matt and Andrew, but mainly Matt because they kind of bounce off of each other a little bit more. Andrew, on the other hand, has a life a little bit harder as he is a shy teenager that has an abusive father and sick mother. He's definitely more isolated than the other two, but they like to tag him along when they go do stuff. Something that Andrew learned is that he likes to film his life, and he kind of uses it as a portal to express his feelings and his frustrations, and he uses it as kind of like a video diary. As far as the big trope of, oh, why would they still be filming in horror movies? I really like this idea on the reason why the camera is turned on. I can definitely get behind the thought of why they want to film everything because, you know, when crazy happens, obviously they're going to want to film it. Another thing that's badass with this movie being found footage is that it's not necessarily a horror film on paper. So it's not like the big thing is recording a killer and we're running for our lives or filming a ghost, etc. Because that's usually when the idea of just stop recording comes into play. In this movie, it really feels like we're in these situations with these characters, and that's awesome because we're living badass lives, and it's sick to be a part of it. That's why found footage is so great. But this movie cuts all that negativity from found footage and vastly improves on it with incorporating, you know, cool ways of holding the camera or other things like that, but we'll get into that later. Matt gets word that there's a party, and he invites Andrew so he can hopefully get some tail. Once we are there, Steve and Matt find a massive hole in the woods and tells Andrew to film it. Follow me behind the woods and I'll show you my massive hole. They drop down into the hole and they find crystals. The crystals start to freak out and then the camera shuts off. The acting in this scene was phenomenal. I know I just completely like skipped through it, but you know, it feels like the kids are really in this situation. This is the most found footage feeling movie in my opinion, or at least on the Mount Rushmore of it. Specifically, Michael B. Jordan in this scene smashes it.
Wait, how creepy is that?
We pick the camera up a few days later while we're playing catch in the yard, but not with our hands. We do it with our minds. When they are overexerted, they get nosebleeds. Classic.
I'm having like a face period.
Oh, man.
Pause.
I would say that this is probably one of the first times that this trope was in a movie, but then I remember that in 2005, Invisible Woman probably got them beat. Also, remember how I said that they use fun ways to incorporate holding the camera? Yeah. Floating camera. Smack cam. The boys get better and better at their telekinetic powers, and they start using them like kids would. They are scaring little kids, pranking civilians, and even throwing people into a lake. Wait. Andrew says that this was an accident and he didn't mean to, while Steve and Matt go to rescue the driver. After that, we make a pact to limit our powers and be more responsible. Steve later on wants to show us something that he learned, and that is that we have the ability to fly. This is about the time when young me was looking at the TV thinking,
Ugh, that's so cool. Why can't that be me?
I am going to say this right now though, I do think it would be a little bit cool if each of them had like one different power. I think that would be like kind of give them some uniqueness, but I understand why they didn't. But I would say that if I had to change anything in the story, I'd probably do that. I don't know what I would do, but I would do something along those lines. Andrew wants to go to Tibet, so we all agree once we are done with school, we can go on a trip around the world. The school has a talent show and Andrew gets persuaded to do it as a magician, while obviously using his powers, which he does. The effect of this is that now he is popular and everyone loves him, including this girl named Monica, who tries to take his V card until he throws up on her. Take it or leave it. Steve comes in to make sure he's okay since Monica left the room calling him a weirdo, and Andrew gets offended because he thought Steve was laughing at him. Andrew kind of freaks out on Steve and yells at him to get out.
Is this funny? No, I'm not laughing. Get out!
Andrew's life continues to spiral down at home. His father continues to abuse him and Andrew finds himself backing away from other people. He also betrays the oath to not use the power on living beings as he rips the legs off of a spider. Uh-oh. Definitely a turning point, but it looked good. It looked cool. I don't know about good. I don't know if good is the right word to say, but it looked cool, I guess. Andrew can lose control sometimes with his powers. Shocker. As Andrew flies into a lightning storm to get away from everything, Matt and Steve start to have nosebleeds as they can hear Andrew talking from time to time. He almost has like a telepathic connection to the gang. Squad goals, all right. Steve finds him trying to figure out what's going on and they get into an argument. Steve reassures him that he's here to help, but Andrew is adamant on the idea that he has no friends and no one cared about him until he got his powers, which obviously is not true. Clearly, Andrew is very unstable and I feel like that this is accurate, or at least something we would have to worry about if superpowers were real. Going from such highs and lows can really affect someone's mentality, and I think that they do a really good job at portraying that. During this frustration, Steve gets struck by lightning and Andrew drops his camera. Steve unfortunately passed away from the lightning. Matt at the funeral gets upset with Andrew because of how he's been acting, as he suspects that it wasn't just a random lightning strike that killed him in the middle of the night. Andrew's been distant. Once we go back to school, everyone is laughing at the fact Andrew threw up on Monica, and because of this, he rips one of the bully's teeth out.
Hey, wait!
Which Andrew is proud about, showing us the individual teeth that he pulled out in the bathroom, kind of like showing it off. Reminds me of me showing my mom a cool rock I found outside.
Yeah, this one has crystals on it.
After this, he goes on a big rant about being better than everybody else and he's a serious danger, calling himself an apex predator. At right about this time, I was thinking, I know some alpha male podcasts I would look at that and be like, fuck yeah, dude. I feel like anybody that would refer to themselves as an apex predator, I think that's a pretty solid red flag for anybody. That's kind of it goes for everyone. So if anyone ever says that to you in real life or refers to themselves as that in real life, steer clear from that fella. Matt tries to talk to Andrew about the consequences of his actions, but Andrew tells him to back off and stay out of his life. There's no point in fighting him because Andrew is stronger than Matt. Finally, we come to the breaking point. The point where Andrew just says, F it. The medical expenses for his mother are too high, so we go to get some cash. Andrew puts on his father's old firefighting suit and robs a gang that picks on him from time to time. They notice it's Andrew and they go to press him, but he uses his powers to fight them off. When he realizes that they barely have any money, he then travels to a food market. He shoves the clerk down, takes the money, and leaves. But behind him comes the clerk with a shotgun. When he pulls the trigger, Andrew pushes the gun away and the bullet hits a gas tank. Now hospitalized, Andrew's dad is at his bedside in tears, but not for Andrew. Andrew's mother has passed away. His dad says that she died while he was looking for Andrew, and if he wasn't busy with that task, then she would still be here. Therefore, putting all the blame on Andrew. Dad yells at Andrew while he's unconscious and demands that he apologizes or else he's going to hit him. I love this next scene. He keeps on yelling at him that the death of his mother is all his fault, and Andrew finally snaps out of it and is done.
Your mother is dead and it is your fault!
Matt then gets a severe nosebleed and he hears Andrew, leaving him to understand what's going on. When he finally arrives, Matt finally exposes himself when Andrew flies out and drops his dad from the building, causing Matt to instinctively go save him. Andrew goes to the Space Needle, probably knowing that Matthew will follow him, and which he does, and they finally have a talk. Of course, that doesn't really go anywhere because Andrew has officially lost it, and we get all kinds of footage from different cameras in Seattle. CCTV, dash cams, all of that, it's badass. Another callback to the found footage, how they, incorporate different things. It's so sick. Andrew is going on a rampage and Matt begs for him to stop. But when Andrew is about to kill a crowd of people, Matt takes a piece of a statue and impales Andrew with it. As he lays on the ground completing what had to be done, he realizes that the police are probably going to want him too, and he catches flight and leaves. We then cut to Tibet with Matt and Andrew's camera, and he declares that he's going to figure out what happened to them on that fateful night in the cave. He then leaves kind of like a little message for Andrew, and he vows to use his power only for good, and he leaves the camera behind. This movie has so many cool themes in it that are deeper than what it really is, and it's visually sick. There's times when it shows its age, sure, but overall, I love this movie and I never get tired of watching it. It's one of those ones that feel homey to me. It's cozy. I also love the scene where Andrew blows up the hospital because for some reason, it scared the shit out of me whenever I was little. I don't know if it was like the face he made, the fact of how quick it was, I don't know, something about it didn't sit right with me. Chronicle was originally supposed to be a trilogy, but after some issues with writing, creative direction, of course, studio problems, it never came to fruition. But honestly, I kind of like that it's a standalone movie. I think it works a lot better being in the unknown and mysterious. There's many scenes in this movie that make it feel like a normal superhero or comic book movie, but then it has visuals that are honestly just creepy. Like the talk in the storm clouds, the ending fight scene with Andrew, or the guy getting pushed into the lake. But also obviously deals with trauma and what reality would really look like if teenagers got these powers that they do in the comics. It's very easy for someone to see themselves as a ruling figure and someone who can take over just because they're more advanced than the average civilian. The film is darker than your typical Marvel movie, sure, but there are many parallels to horror films that people overlook. The psychological viewpoint of being trapped in this hell that is Andrew's home life and then getting bullied on the outside for almost no reason. Then he gets an abnormality that makes him ultimately stronger and more capable of things that he can barely control, making him a threat to not only himself, but anyone that actually cares about him or the people around them. Then you have themes of grief with not only the death of one of the most outgoing characters and the life of the friend group, but the process of seeing the other friend spiral down and become something that you never thought he could become. It's just an interesting storyline followed by cool visuals and different storytelling devices that I feel like we haven't gotten in movies in a long time. We had movies taken on a laptop cam like Unfriended and War of the Worlds featuring Ice Cube. But found footage movies honestly seem like a lost art, and that truly sucks. I love found footage movies. They're like one of my favorite things. Hopefully in the near future, we can return to the greatness that is found footage films, and not even for horror films, just films in general. Show me some cool shit that looks like someone filmed it on their phone, and I mean, I'm in. The creativity really shows in this movie, and it truly feels like one of a kind. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing. And if you want to see more from this channel or just support what we do here, then you are more than welcome to become a member like these beauties right here. Thank you for watching all the way through, and as always, have a great rest of your day, evening, or night. 15 likes and I'll go down the hole in my backyard and see how much my nose bleeds.